Okay, so today is a bit of a surprise category because last week's Wednesday episode was the last episode of the Paladin's Permadeath character Gauntlet, which overall is supposed to be my slot for just a Permadeath multiplayer Gauntlet overall. So, like, we went through all the champions in that game, and so we got to play as all of them, and then when you lose, you move on to the next one. So they ran out, we got through all of them. So that series is over. And so now the next one in that slot is going to be Smite, which is still going to be Wednesday, but I thought I'd take a break from it for a couple weeks and we'll do kind of other random weird things like bringing back my Whatever Wednesday, which I was doing before that, which was, or no, I was doing it at some other period of time because that permanent thing was on like Friday. So I kind of moved stuff around. But the point is, Whatever Wednesday was basically just I would play stuff that was like either I haven't played it before, kind of like my Saturday format, or it could be stuff I have played before. But a lot of them came from like Steam charts, whatever was like high up on there that I hadn't played. So like Unturned was there, so I was like, okay, let me just try it. And then I played a lot of stuff from the Xbox Game Pass, sort of like my Thursday format, where like I'm playing Ark on that, but that was like a mini series within the overall series of the Xbox Game Pass Gauntlet, where I go through every single game on there in alphabetical order, and I do like some sort of permanent or hard mode with it. And so I kind of did a hybrid of that on Wednesday, like, okay, let me try to play a game that's leaving the Game Pass soon, because I wouldn't have gotten to that anyway, because by the time I got to letter F or something for some game, right, it would obviously be gone because some of those series take me forever. I've been doing Ark for months. So, I have all these different formats that I do, but I often don't have enough time to do them. That's the one problem with it. But let me think like how I would do this theoretically. This would be like my first just chatting category in a long time, so we could react to news articles, or I don't know what people really do in this thing. Like it's just IRL stuff, it's just random, it's just talking to chat, which I guess that's good to do if you're like a big streamer and you have a lot of people in chat anyway, so that kind of you let the chat create the content for you. I know Invader V would do that a lot. Like I would watch her for whatever reason, but she was kind of like, she would just sit there and just talk to chat or just do like some whatever arts and crafts. She was like building a tree house. It's like, I don't understand sometimes what this whole thing is about, but especially if you don't do face cam, but that makes what you're saying or what you're doing actually more consequential. But what you're doing here is kind of dumb anyway. So yeah, this will be Whatever Wednesday. So we did it a little bit there. So that was like phase one of Whatever Wednesday, where I just play sort of random things, different things I haven't played before or in a long time. So that was, again, phase one was just playing games off Steam charts that I hadn't played, games off Game Pass Gauntlet that were leaving soon, and just kind of other random things like that. Now, this one will just be kind of different every week. Even I don't know what it's going to be right up until. I just decided to do this now because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So we'll hold off Smite for at least a month. We'll do this for a couple weeks. I'm not sure what other things I want to do for it, but it can be just kind of on a whim, right? It's a little bit different than how I normally like to do things because I like there to be a clear beginning and end point to a series. Like people will tell me, oh, you should play some multiplayer game or something, but I don't like to just play it just for the sake of playing it. I guess I do that with card games more so, but like I would want there to be some sort of condition, like, oh, it ends if I lose X number of games, or that's why that Permadeath Gauntlet is so good, because you get to play as every character theoretically, and you are going to play it for a long period of time. In fact, you could play it forever if you just go on a good enough win streak, but at least it gives it a sense of finality that if you do lose with every single one, that's the end, and then that series is over, and you're not going to just keep playing it forever. Because that's how multiplayer games work a lot of the time, is you could just play the same one over and over forever, which is a good thing, but especially in the sense of getting it for free, like everybody else can buy the microtransactions for you, and you can just sit there and soak in the fun, especially if you don't care about the cosmetics or you don't care about the we're just going to be looking at this Google screen the whole fucking time, especially if you don't care about the cosmetics or even trying to catch up with everybody else, like even in Magic the Gathering or something. I don't really care that I start off with a bad question and I have to work my way up, because I almost enjoy having to do that. I wouldn't want to start with just the best meta decks. Let me see. You could literally just go off the news topics, like what is a Oh, it was showing me that. NVIDIA GeForce RTX Super. Now, this is not anything to do with me or my suggested. So that must just be something new. See, you can do the associative process. This is how I would sometimes do this sort of category. This sort of harkens back to my debate format that I would do and things like that, right? And even there, you could say like, oh, that's kind of like just chatting and cult of personality and things like that. But the fact is that there was always an emphasis, at least, on like you're discussing stuff at a relatively high level, and there weren't like a ton of people who participated and active in chat and stuff, but there was a sense of I don't know how to explain it. It's like after a certain amount of time, you create like sort of a close knit community that like they're all kind of on the same page. That seems like harder to do now. Like sure, I have regular viewers and stuff, but it's not quite the same thing. Right, like it's one thing to like you could take even a big streamer and put that to the test, right? Like Destiny or Hassan or somebody who even does that kind of content or XQC or whatever. And it's like it's one thing you have 100,000 viewers in there, but what percentage of them would actually be able to I don't know. It feels like there's a lot of mindless stuff that happens these days. Not saying it was perfect back then, but it's somehow you foster a community like that, like where you could have 100,000 people in there just spamming emotes and random brain dead things over and over, regurgitative, thoughtless stuff. Or you could have like 10 people in there saying actually insightful, well thought out, full sentences, which is a lot to ask. Part of the reason why people don't do that is obviously the simple fact that you're able to. Yeah, I almost do a better one. I'm just like, this is just my intro, but this will be the whole episode because, like, I don't need a topic. I just randomly keep going from one to the next. The topic can come from what you were just talking about a second ago. And so the point is that you would rather have those 10 people actually saying full sentences. I guess the thing that disincentivizes that is like there's 100,000 people in there, so they can't read what you're saying anyway. But I always said I would have that VIP once I got bigger or something. I would give like VIP or free subs to people who say something like really cool in chat. So that like if you say something really funny or interesting or actually well thought out, I would give you a free sub. Like every day, I would do that a couple times. And so it's not about the act of doing that. It's the fact that that would encourage people all the time to be trying to do that. Like, oh, I want a free sub, so I'll actually try to use my brain a little bit and say something actually intelligent or well thought out. So now it creates that environment in chat that people are doing it for that reason. But really, I'm just doing it to encourage that. I don't really care about the whatever you're giving them. So of course this is kind of my history comes to mind, just the fact that I have always been like, oh, I'm a PC elitist, but I still use a laptop. So on one hand that makes me look like a clown. It's just for the convenience of it because I'm always moving around and I'm using it for other things and it's just so convenient for me. I don't really even have a desktop at all, let alone a high-end one. And I know it's a lot cheaper proportionally and you can get a lot better one, but for the most part it's been good enough for me just to have like sort of gaming laptops. So I had the Zephyrus G14 one, which is like a really tiny one. It's like this cute little white. Let me actually show it. Asus. So this one worked pretty well for me, and I still have it, and I use it for like other stuff, editing and whatnot. But I don't really use it to play stuff on there too much. So let's see how much would it be now, because that's like how much that's even more than I paid for it originally when I got it years ago. Or is it like a newer version of it? It should be yeah, there must be newer ones. I got it in like 2020, right? But it worked pretty well. And you might think, oh, it's like a tiny screen, but it didn't matter because I'm always using an HDMI and like a monitor, or at least I always was doing that. Even as I say that, I'm not doing it now. But no, I've always been like a PC elitist and chat all over consoles. Like who would want to do stuff on console? The controls suck, especially for aiming, first-person shooter, third-person shooters, things like that. You get like auto aim, which even concedes the fact that aiming is fucked up, right? That why would you need that? The same game will have the option for auto aim or lock on console, but it won't have it on PC, which is even the developer telling you, oh yeah, you need a little help because console controls suck. Not even because you suck at them, because I could suck at PC aiming, but I still don't mind. Right, that's a good example of my objectivity. I would rather play on PC and struggle with my aim, but still feel more in control of it, than to play on console and benefit from auto aim, despite because of how bad my aim is. But I still don't want that to carry me. You want the result to actually feel like you determined it, and so yeah, I've always held that in high esteem. And there's so many good examples. Like you think about like World of Warcraft or MMOs in general, you wouldn't be able to play WoW throughout its history on console because yeah, sure, people might joke and say, well, you're playing a paladin or something, so you only have like a few inputs, or you could do like your raid rotation with only a couple buttons. But for the most part, you have so many abilities, rows and rows, F1 through F12, and a couple rows on the side, and like 1 through 12. You have way too many buttons to be able to fit on a console controller, so that alone just disqualifies it. I know they have the ability now where you can like hook a keyboard and mouse to a console. I've never really tried to do that, and I don't really get how it works, but that makes up for the main objection. I'm not even a big stickler on graphics, or I mean, obviously, because I'm using a laptop that wouldn't be the highest end, although it's not bad. It's just like it's not going to be like ultra settings of a brand new game that just came out or something like that. But the point, and you need something even better than that to compensate for the fact that you're streaming it too. That kind of puts a little more strain on it. But the point is that you're in a position where you're a PC elitist, but you use the fucking gaming laptop for most of your streaming career, and that's still fine because on one hand it makes me look like a clown, but on the other hand it makes people who use console look like clowns too, even though I have them both. I have a PS5 and I have a Xbox Series S or whatever, and a Switch and stuff, so I don't really use them much, but if there's certain exclusives or certain good excuses to do it, I will. Or sometimes I'll even go out of my way to do it just to make it feel like those things have a purpose for existing. Like, I was doing the Game Pass Gauntlet on there on Xbox, and it was like a lot of those games are on PC anyway. Like even Ark, I started doing it on there, but clearly that must be why I played so bad, not just because I am bad, period. But on the other hand, it does make people look like clowns for using console, because even the shitty whatever standard you might think, oh, you're using a gaming laptop, that's nowhere near as good as as like a hardcore gaming PC. You might be right about that. So you can make fun of me for being a laptop gamer, but still a step below that is even weaker than my gaming laptop. Oh, it's an Xbox Series S or X, or it's a PS5, right? Like I guarantee you, in fact, provably you could tell that at least my computer is better than those, but that's not really saying much. Like that's like saying a console is stronger than a Nintendo Switch or something. So Nintendo just sort of gave up on the home consoles because they couldn't compete with those. So they just make a sequel to the 3DS, right? Which is what the Switch is a successor to that. But they completely just ditched whatever the successor to the Wii U was supposed to be. So I always find that kind of funny that I respect the Wii U the Switch, and it's good, but I respect the Wii U. Said no one ever. But it is also a concession on their part that they would kind of give up in the other space. I can't believe these are so much. Like, why? They must be different versions, right? That must have been the 2021 or something. I don't get why it would be more now. Maybe just cause, yeah, like this is literally like what I paid for it, or probably 1,200. Doesn't even make any sense. But whatever. That was the one I had gotten at that point. The one before that, I can't even really remember. Like, see, I only get one like every 4 or 5 years. Recently, I got one, whatever, just a little shorter than that, but like I got one in like 2008 maybe, let's say, and that was even obviously before I was streaming or anything. Then I got one in like 20, I can't even remember actually. After that 2008 I had something, I can't remember even what it was. Then maybe I got one around like 2011, 2012. Then I got one in like 2016. Then in 2020 I got that one that I just showed. And then now I've been using the one I currently have, which I forget even what it actually is called. It's like a stealth. Let me actually look at G576 stealth. And so let's see what it'll say the cost is now. Please select your model. I don't even know that much about it. UE, whatever. The point is, this is probably pretty still good. I got it like probably 2 years ago now, or almost 1.5 years, something like that. So this should last me for a long time. And yeah, this screen is actually bigger. Or you know what happened with the G14 thing? Is that I got totally baited by the fact that yes, it was pretty reasonable, affordable, and it not bad performance. And again, I still have it, so I'm not like unhappy with it. But what was really dumb as a bait, and maybe I should have done more research, is it only had like 2 USB ports in there, and so I needed to get like an extender to use all my other things, and so it kind of baits you with that. And then it also doesn't have like it doesn't have like a lot of peripheral things that you might not need or want anyway, that they would normally charge you a lot more for. Like it doesn't have a webcam, it doesn't have a built-in mic. Not that you need those things, but it doesn't have the USB ports. Oh, you know what it also doesn't have? This is part of the reason. It only had 2 USB ports, and then one of them I have to use for an Ethernet, for like a converter. And the reason why is because it doesn't have an Ethernet port either. So now you're reduced to 1 USB port. That's such bullshit, right? Imagine having a laptop without an Ethernet port in there, but I guess it's so thin that it wouldn't even have made sense. But yeah, you need like a splitter converter type thing to be able to use an Ethernet on there, like to hardwire your internet, which is utterly ridiculous. And like you could say it's my fault, it probably says it on there, but it's just the fact that basically I didn't note it. I was looking at the specs and all that kind of stuff, so I overlooked that. So when I got it, I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then I had to go out and buy you would have to theoretically buy those things manually. Like, oh, I have to buy a webcam if I did face cam or something, or now I have to buy a splitter for that. I have to buy all this other thing to make up for the USB lacking. So in a way, that's kind of disingenuous and a bait, but I guess it's kind of my fault for not looking into that. But I was so pissed when I got it. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Did I get the wrong product, or is it mismanufactured or something? How could you only have 2 USB ports, no Ethernet cable port, and then you need to use one of the USBs for an Ethernet port, so you're guaranteed to only have one, no matter how you do it, right? If you're hardwired, you have a maximum of one. You can either use a mouse or a keyboard or a mic or one thing and one thing only. So this thing is... I like seeing all these prices that are higher than what I paid for it. Like, how the fuck is it 2100? Or it must be a new version of it. I didn't pay anywhere near that, 2200. Yeah, I like how the prices go up over time, even on some of the older ones, because you just can't find them. Like, now the one downside of laptops is obviously the fact that if something breaks, it breaks like the whole thing, right? Like if your monitor breaks, your CPU is still good, or vice versa, or certain aspects can break. Here, like if the keyboard breaks, that's part of the laptop itself, so that kind of fucks it up. Or if the USB stops working on your laptop, you might have to replace the whole laptop, or it would be very convoluted, complicated to fix that. Or no, I guess that could be true with the CPU as well, though. But it's so much easier. You can replace parts, you can keep upgrading, you can keep improving it. It's just a lot more... there's a lot more you can do with it, but the flip side is that I'm too lazy to do that. So this is kind of like, you get it, it's ready made. You don't have to do anything besides every few months just blow the fan with some stupid compressed air. But that's about it. Like, it's just more, you just get it and go. And that's sometimes how I am too with like impulse stuff. Like, I won't want to get a new one for a long time, and then one day I'll just randomly be like, okay, today I want it, and then I'll just go get it. But the problem with that is now everything's online, so you have to wait. So it's like you're actually hurting your sales as these companies to not allow an impulse buy. Like, I'll buy a $1,500 laptop randomly after 5 years of not even having any desire to get one, just because one day I feel like it. And so if I could just go to a store and get it, I would get it. But because you have to actually order it online or something, then I'll second guess and be like, oh, I'm too lazy, I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait a week, even after waiting 5 years. So that's what this one web page allowed me to go on a tangent on about my old computer experiences. But no, the biggest reason to even have a console is for exclusive games. If they didn't have any of those, which you almost hope you live in a world where that doesn't happen anymore, but Nintendo's never going to give that up. And it'd be interesting to think, like, how many copies of Breath of the Wild and stuff would they have sold on PC, though, if it had been on PC? That's a very, like, would that offset it? Would Nintendo sell so many games on PC to make up for the last console sales? And that's the thing, they would still both exist at the same time, and it would exist as a handheld, so it has a certain merit to it as well, right? You would still have people who own the console, but would it completely invalidate the console and make up for it in the sales of the games on PC, or would it be worth it or not? It's actually a pretty legitimate thought. I'm sure they'll never do it anyway, but there was this thing where Microsoft kept talking about you can play this on Windows 10 and on Xbox. Like, everything was becoming a hybrid, or it was on both, because obviously Microsoft is a PC company as well. But like, so some of the newer Halo games are kind of like that, where Halo Infinite, is it really? Why did I feel like something else came out after that? Halo Infinite 2020. I haven't heard really much about it since it came out. Xbox Game Studios, now it's on PC as well, right? That's the whole beauty of it. Microsoft Windows. So this used to be a series that is very entrenched in exclusivity, or at least I think a lot of them are exclusive to Xbox, but Halo Battle Royale reportedly canceled after years of work. Yeah, we don't need any more battle royales, dude. Like, you get some of these oversaturated genres. Battle royales are like the superhero movies of gaming, where it's not even a bad thing, and I don't have anything against it, but it starts to just become way too much, where everybody's doing it. Let's just have another card game instead, which, to be fair, that didn't used to be so overdone, but oh, what a random thing. Like, I happened to look up Halo for the first time ever in my life, because I've never even played any of the games and I have no interest in it. But now we hear about this battle royale that was actually canceled. The mysterious, long-rumored Halo Battle Royale project from series co-developer Certain Affinity is no longer in development. I always find that amazing that companies just put in so much work into something and then they just drop it. You would think they would sort of, it shows a certain amount of integrity though, actually, because it might be a shitty product, so they'd rather lose the money on it than release it and just try to hodgepodge together something and make a quick buck off it. So I guess in that sense it's good, but yeah, that could be a whole series of games that I go through and do first playthrough permadeaths with, where you basically go through every Halo game on the highest difficulty, which I've heard the original is extremely difficult on that. So now it fucks up my searches because I want to see. Now this could potentially get you in trouble, right? If you do, I'm feeling lucky. Doodles are spontaneous creation celebrations of local heroes. This sort of represents the whole online, like, and I love that people reacting to it has become a form of content. Just react to random stuff that you're not even coming up with or thinking yourself, or that you don't have any background or experience with. It's not like, oh, I'm a psychology expert, so let me look up topics related to psychology. No, it's like, let me just look up whatever random shit appears on Google just because, and just whatever. It's so like this low attention span reactionary garbage type of thing, but it's something that people are so interested in. Modern Warfare 3, that's another series I could do. I've never played I'd never played Call of Duty games either. Like, there's so many series that I have just never gotten around to doing. Or like, if I've done it very briefly. Like, I might have played one of them one time in some kind of zombie survival mode or something. What would be interesting is if in doing this I come up with an idea to play something other than Smite, because I was kind of looking for what else could I do for my next little permadeath series. One of the ones that I started with was the NBA 2K series. That's one of my favorite ones to do. Like, it was like 2K14 or something a long time ago, and so I would go team by team in like online quick match or whatever, and I would play until I lose with a team, and then I have to go to the next one. So you kind of have to make the best of what you get there. You'll get like a really busted team, then you'll get like a really shitty team, and you just kind of have to improvise, and it's very fun. You'll go on these super long streaks, and really, it's like you're really playing for something instead of just randomly playing. So I always like that. Hanuman movie box office collection day. Of course, I have seen a lot of movies from international stuff, but there's this interesting thing with Hindi movies as far as like Bollywood would always brag about, oh, we make the most number of movies in a year, which might still be true. I'm not even sure, but the flip side is that's like quantity over quality. It doesn't mean that they're good. It just means they make more than everybody else. I don't know exactly what it is, but I feel like this is South Indian or something, but good old Shah Rukh Khan, like the richest actor in the world, kind of, technically, even more than Leonardo DiCaprio and stuff, because he owns like a cricket team or a whole bunch of stuff. So it's not just purely from his acting career, but like a lot of his investments have panned out really well. Colts, Taco Bell cinnamon twist cereal, Germany World War III. What the fuck does that mean? Germany preparing Russia to start World War III. Really? What kind of a stupid baiting headline is this? Germany fears Putin could start World War III. Okay. There's such random things. Why did they change from before too? These are completely different. It was telling me about Nvidia. Now we're in some kind of a weird other loop of stuff. Well, I guess it keeps changing every few seconds because people are looking up different things every second. Murders at Karlov Manor spoilers. Or, there was this fun sort of thing you could do. See how many people search for something, right? Like there was a thing, yeah, Google Trends, and you would look up certain games and be like, how many people are looking up, I don't know, let's do Kwame Brown, the clown who has like his own podcast now, who is like a big bust NBA player. Why did he peak there? Or what's cool to see with this is like really old ones. Oh, whoops. Like when he first got drafted, or 2004 to present. Would they really have data on all this older stuff? You would think they wouldn't have kept track. That seems unbelievable. How would they have had the presence of mind to care about it at that point? In 2004, like when did he get drafted? He was probably in high school then. Then everybody realizes he's a bust, so it drops off. And then whatever, Stephen A. Smith is ranting about him, so that gives him some credit. Nobody gives a shit about him in a lot of parts of the world. Net worth topic, probably not very high. Or that was the line that I said one time, like, you're a failure when you made less money from your actual NBA career than Chris Smoove did from playing NBA 2K games on stream and on video. Like, unironically, that's true. Chris Smoove's net worth from playing 2K games simulating basketball is higher than Kwame Brown's for actually being an NBA player, which you could say that's true maybe with some of them, like, you know, not very good players, bench warmers and stuff. But it's obviously, these things are never really accurate either. 1.99K. And I always judge it by like a potential. E is way more than that. By a potential thing, 640,000. Like people kept asking that with Levy, like in chess. You know, what is Levy's net worth? Is he a millionaire? If he's not a millionaire, you know, there's some sort of ratio you could do. If he's not a millionaire, he's obviously doing something wrong and not using the following that he has efficiently enough, or he's just like being very not greedy and whatever. But there's so many sponsorships you could do. You got 5 million subs. If you're not at least a millionaire, you're kind of a clown, because you know what I mean? Like, that's such an insane opportunity that you have. You could be sponsored by chess.com here. They could be paying you for that. Like, he's writing a book. Like, you could say that stuff doesn't relate to strictly his content creation, but it turns you into a internet's chess teacher. It turns you into giving you all these opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't have. So there's something to that. Just like the simple fact that I don't really like reacting to videos as much, because then it feels like you're stealing content. I mean, I guess even reading stuff is a manner of speaking is like that, but you can always react to like your old videos and nobody would know the difference. You could pretend like that's just your live stream, like replaying some old stuff. But no, the whole point is that, what do you call it? Like, when you have that big of a following, you can assume what somebody makes. Wait, that means he's like way outshining Botez live. I thought they were kind of closer in followers. He has 1.4 million, and he has like, he copied my intro line. I always say "so today." She said today, haha. Basically, wow. I didn't know he was like that much more popular. How about Hikaru? Meritocracy wins after all, compared to 2.2 million is kind of sad. As seen on TV, like, yeah, meritocracy wins, by the way. And look what the fuck, as seen on TV, Hikaru pineapples. Oh, it's because of his stupid shirt that he always would wear. Ding Liren showing himself as to be a fraud, though. Like, he lost to Prague, I think. The most undeserving champion ever, which is not really his fault. Right, the fact that Magnus didn't play, but I'll make a prediction there, even though I predicted he would choke, which was right in the last World Championship, but he choked, but Jan out-choked him, so then it ended up being where he still won. Imagine that. But no, I guarantee you he won't be able to defend his title, because he's just a fraud. Like, whoever plays him will beat him. I'll make that prediction now. I'll do a Charles Barkley guarantee kind of a thing. That'd be kind of a fun thing to have on stream, is like some sort of buttons like that do some crazy thing. You make some sort of guarantee. Like, that's how people do polls and stuff, I guess. Like, they'll say, if I'm wrong about this, then you get like 1 million channel points, or you get a free sub or something. You could turn into all things like that. Promote gambling without even having to do proper gambling on stream. Is the hunt like the Hunt Showdown, or what is it? Just the Hunt. And some of these are kind of deceptive. Like, you'll look up WoW, so it'll be like, wow, World of Warcraft, but it's also the word WoW, so there could be 1 million different reasons. It could be some product, it could be too many different things, so it's not specific enough. But that could be like, oh, a new WoW expansion is being announced and released. Caleb Downs. Sports is always a good little folly favoritism. I did do like a little you know, that 1 week as a sports podcaster thing, and there were some pretty fun things that came out of it. Like, the one that triggered people the most was probably the Dirk Nowitzki take. The idea that this is a guy who, you know, he's still a great player, but he's way overrated in the sense that he's like very one-dimensional. He's a scorer who could only mainly shoot. He could score sometimes inside in other ways. But the thing that I kind of bash is, like, you know, he's 7 feet. He's not a great rebounder, right? Where's rebounds? He only averaged 7 rebounds for his career. So he's not a great rebounder. He's not a great defender. In fact, he was always called soft. He was called a bad defender. He's not a great passer at all. So, like, what is he doing? He's not getting blocks or steals. So unless he's scoring, he's completely useless to your team. And unless he's shooting mainly jump shots, he's also useless to your team. And so the point is, in his MVP season, it's not a surprise that they figured him out and they just shut down his jump shots, and then he struggled and he got upset as the 1 seed by the 8 seed Warriors. And then even in 2006 in the finals, he played really badly, so they lost after being up 2-0. But it's like, he's not that hard of a guy to figure out. Yes, he had the 2011 run that kind of team is a little bit underrated because they had a lot of good stretch shooters and things like that that people sometimes focus too much on just the one player. Like, he played well, but that's not entirely why they won. So he's very overrated in that sense. The fact that, you could have one, because it's like any great player is going to be where, if one part of your game is off, then you could make up for it. Okay, Kobe's shooting 20% tonight, but he's playing good defense. He's doing other things. He's at least, very active. If he's having a bad shooting night, you're just fucked. And that's what happened in those two major series. You make it to the finals, you're up 2-0, and then he's shooting like 30% from the field, Dirk, and then you lose 4 in a row, despite the refereeing being under question. Certainly, Dwayne Wade shot a fuckload of free throws, but then the other one is the fact that, you get upset. We believe it's not a coincidence that in his MVP season that happens. If you just take away certain things, he has no answer because he's a very one-dimensional superstar, if you want to call him that. It's kind of interesting to think about. Or like, I shat all over Jason Kidd for shooting 40% from the field for his career while not even being much of a scorer. So that is kind of fun sometimes. React to full NBA games on stream. This is the kind of thing that people would be doing now, like how people watch movies or they watch full TV shows. Like, XUC reacting to MasterChef is probably the most egregious thing of all. Like, how the fuck could you possibly do that? Or my friend had a good quote about Kawhi Leonard, like him saying injuries are God's way of making it fair for everybody else, because whenever he's not injured, he would always be the favorite. He would always win, aside from in the bubble, which, that was a good take that people liked of mine. Right when the bubble thing was happening, I must have been playing 2K or something, or somehow the topic came up. So basically, I said, like, people want to discredit the Lakers championship there, but it's an equalizing factor. So it doesn't, like, people say, it's a Mickey Mouse ring, or they're trying to undercut it. But basically what they're saying is, whoever won, then you would have had to have the same response, but everybody played in the bubble. So how is that unfair for them? Like, whoever would have won would have had to go through the same thing. And so, and arguably, not only did it not help the Lakers, because again, everybody's going through the same circumstance, but it helped in a minor way. Like the fact that, yes, they were older, whatever, LeBron's older, and AD's injury prone. So maybe it would mean that they had a little more time to rest, I guess, in between. But aside from that, it actually hurt them because they were a higher seed, right? They were a 1 or 2 seed, I can't even remember. So they would have lost home court advantage because there was no home court advantage because every fucking game was in the bubble. So you lose that. So, and that's part of the reason why the Bucks got upset. They were the 1 seed or whatever, and they lose to the Heat or something, who were like the 5th seed. And so therefore, and then the Heat even make it to the final. So they kind of equalized the home court advantage. So that was actually a big part that it would help lower seeded teams and actually hurt the higher seeded teams. So not only did it not help the Lakers, it would have actually hurt them. So I know it's all hip to hate on them just because you hear maybe too much about them all the time, whether they're winning or not. Like the old joke that, like, when they win, the story's about them, but when they lose, the story's also about them. Not like, the Nuggets beat them, but they were even complaining about that when they were on the championship run last year. Like, the Nuggets are pissed that, like, we're winning and we're getting less coverage than the Lakers just because they're a big city or whatever the fuck it is. The Warriors kind of fell off pretty hard. Flight reacts molding over here. I always found Flight's whole success so interesting because it's like you're rewarding the guy for acting dumb. He'll say like a player's name wrong and he'll know he's saying it wrong, and even in the video he's watching will say the name correctly in there as he's saying it, but he'll still say it wrong, and people will constantly be so easily entertained by that, right? So it's like the best way to become famous is just act stupid, act even stupider than I guess you already are, and then people will find it funny or feel like they'll want to feel superior or smart to you, or they'll want to correct you. And so you're baiting content and baiting comments and stuff for so long. And so it's just amazing that can work for such a long period of time. If anybody else did that who was like an unknown person, they'd be like somehow it's endearing when he does it, but when someone else does it, you're just a moron. Why would anybody want to watch you? But like, they're laughing at you, not with you, but still he's like so insanely popular. The Timberwolves definitely a surprise here. Thunder is kind of a surprise. A lot of these young teams developing. They were like the 8th seed last year, so that's a great jump. I guess Cat really did change the game, like he said, and he got mocked for. But no, what was one of the other takes? Oh yeah, just the bubble thing I said. Like, you know, it's an equalizing factor. Everyone had to play in that condition. It's not like only the Lakers played there and everybody else played somewhere else somehow. So I don't see how you can use that one way or the other. So yeah, I don't really take anything away from that. That's fine. And then somebody who would have predicted, see, like, at least I can admit when I'm wrong. Unlike some people like Skip Bayless or somebody would still say, oh, haha, the Lakers dodged the Clippers. But how the fuck did they dodge them when it'd be one thing if somebody got injured, but they didn't, right? They were up 3-1 on the Nuggets, and then they just choke and lose it, which is kind of incomprehensible. If anybody that wouldn't happen to, it would be Kawhi, because he's always so composed, and I don't really get it, like, how that happened. So that is the one failure of his career. But outside of that, whenever he's healthy, you should be the favorite. Like, they should win it now if he just stays healthy the whole season. But I guess I predicted that a couple years already prior, and it always comes down to the same thing. That's the only time when you would have been legitimately wrong, right? That's always a good excuse in your predictions in sports. It's like, well, I would have been right, but somebody got injured, and that's almost always true, right? Like, even if it's a minor injury, that's the biggest copium one ever. Doc Rivers says, like, oh, we lost to Kobe Bryant and the Lakers in 2010 in Game 7 because Kendrick Perkins couldn't play. Like, technically, yes, he was their starting center. He wasn't completely, you know, that might have made the difference, whatever. But imagine using the absence of Kendrick fucking Perkins as the excuse for not winning a championship against a team that you beat in 2008. And, you know, like, come on. That's really the difference. And it might have been, right, to be fair, but that is a major cope fucking excuse. Like, oh no, Kendrick Perkins, please come save us. Like an absolute clown that he is. That is hilarious. But he legitimately said that, oh, we would have won if Kendrick Perkins was there. Not like Ray Allen, not Kevin Garnett, not Rondo, not fucking, you know, Paul Pierce. But no, Kendrick Perkins wasn't there. Oh my god. The Spurs, it's kind of hard to believe that the Spurs would be in this position. Like, you know, they were always so good in the regular season, even when they would sometimes choke and lose in the first round, like to Memphis or something. They would always, this is hard for them to swallow somehow. Even if you say they tanked, the real crime would be not to finish what we started. Like, they tanked for Duncan and then won. They tanked for Victor now. Now they'll tank for somebody else. The Pistons had that 28-game losing streak. The Grizzlies, I guess, probably have injuries, right? They couldn't be that bad normally. Portland obviously is dead in the water after Damian left. Although I didn't think they would be that bad. Like, which of these are surprises? I thought the Spurs would still be like a little bit, you know, 9 or 10 or something. I didn't think they'd be that bad. Trailblazers probably 10, 11. Grizzlies, again, maybe it's not a surprise because they're just injured, so that's like a non-factor. Warriors, I really would have thought would be, even like last year, they were like, what, the 6th seed? So I thought they'd be somewhere still around there. Rockets, I would even say, should be a little bit lower. Lakers, probably around the same, fighting for the play-in or whatever. They've come up with too many of these new formats, like the play-in game, the whatever, the in-season tournament that everybody's mocking, like, oh, they got to raise the banner and they got to, you know, celebrate that shit. And now they won't even make the playoffs. And then the Jazz, probably, I don't know. Like, the Suns you'd expect to be higher because they have whatever, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. And I saw something, Beal was only averaging like 15 points or something for the season, which is ridiculous. A guy who led the league in scoring not too long ago. The Kings you'd expect to be even a little bit higher. I don't know, most of them kind of make sense. The Pelicans I'd probably would be a bit lower. Everybody's making fun of Zion and his whole body build. But I mean, it works for him. The Hunt, what the hell is the Hunt? Martha's Vineyard Times. Jason Kelce retire. Coachella 2024 lineup. Lakers. Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, a 10th seed is getting this much attention. Who the fuck cares about the Lakers, dude? But everybody apparently always does. Death and other details. Elton John. Clippers. Okay, you hear about an injury and you have a fucking heart attack, but at least it's not Kawhi or Paul George or somebody. Lake effect, snow warning. I guess this could be doxing you, right? This could be telling you like where you are. Why would it be showing this otherwise? But no, maybe it's not. Maybe this is like what it's the United States. So why is this such a big deal? Maybe I just sort of got baited into self-doxing, like, oh, this doesn't affect me, but maybe it actually does. There was some warning around where I live, but there's actually nothing right where I am. So I must have gotten lucky and dodged it. Jamie Lee Curtis, the Scream Queen from Halloween, who I don't know what else even she's been in over the years. Like I'm sure I've seen her in other movies, but what else is she known for? Halloween, fucking all of them probably. That one I haven't seen. I haven't seen a lot of movies lately. Oh yeah, I forgot she was in True Lies. Like I haven't seen really too many modern movies in the last 3 or 4 years. What movies have I actually seen, especially in theaters? I just saw The Way of Water. I saw Megan for whatever reason. Those are like the only two. Outside of that, I can't even remember anything I've seen. I saw that 500 Days of Summer because I was gonna do like some sort of gauntlet where I watch every single creating formats like how I do for all these permanent gauntlets and stuff, but even for my in real life whatever, like a streaming service where I'm like watching stuff on Netflix. So I'll just go in order. So I'll start from letter A, but I actually start from the number because that comes before the letter. So it'd be like 500 Days of Summer is the first one in there because it's, starts with 500. Scream Queens, how fitting. Pistons, you're gonna trade somebody. I mean, again, you don't expect them to be good, but that is kind of hilarious what's happened. Thunder. Why is everybody so into basketball? Like that's half the searches here. I mean, I guess it's just that season, but yeah, we could guess all these kind of trends. Like what if I look up one of my terms? Like nobody would ever have looked this up. Wait, what? What is that? Yeah, why is it suggesting that? Acme stimuli. Did somebody steal my? Oh no, this is not exactly what it means. What the fuck is that, dude? No, but like, would it have peaked because I talked about it in my debate format? Clearly, that's what these big streamers can do because, if they talk about something, even if it was so specific or random as that, it would get traction just through cult of personality alone. What the United States is searching for now. Trending was just the same thing. Real-time search trends. Morocco. Too many things to do with sports, man. Give me something else. I saw that Trump's whole thing in some state was rejected, that they were trying to remove him from the ballot. So, I always find that weird how people try to approach Trump. Like, you don't have to like the guy or you don't have to vote for the guy, but they always try to disqualify him in some other way. If he's such a bad guy, you've certainly heard enough about it. It's not like he's being protected or coddled by the media. He's always being shat on all day, every day by everyone. So it's like you've heard enough criticism of him to simply say, yeah, like people can make their own decisions. So you don't need to disqualify him altogether. You should just assume people aren't going to vote for him because he's just as bad as people say. Meanwhile, the alternative is such a clown show with what you ended up getting, so that kind of is the problem. Right, like you're going for the lesser of two evils with Biden, and it was a fucking disaster. I'd rather you just don't vote at all and let happen whatever happens. Right, it's sort of like this old expression I would use, like that's how you get the worst leaders in history, when you fight against something rather than for something. Right, like so you're kind of voting against him rather than voting for someone that you have conviction in. So like, oh, he's bad, so I'll just vote for whoever's on the other side without even thinking, and then you end up regretting that too, instead of just like, okay, I'm not going to vote for him because I don't like him, but then, kind of see what happens. It does kind of dox you a little bit here, though, with some of these. Hey, Inappropriate, how's it going? Let's see. I just always wonder I've never really watched people do just chatting stuff, so I really wonder what they do. I think they react to videos a lot, which both for copyright reasons and just for general respect reasons, I wouldn't really want to do that either. Am I American? Yes, I am. Let's see. We could look in like what other parts of the world. Spirit Airlines stock. It doesn't even show some parts of the world sometimes. Like they're just not even part of it, or you know what they probably wouldn't show is like China because they're so secretive with everything they do. They don't even have the internet in large part. Like they censor so many parts of it. How do you feel about the United States Constitution? I mean, I don't feel like you have to feel a particular way. It's just like it's important and you have to abide by it, which a lot of people try to subvert that these days. All kind of gun control stupid things or whatever. That was always a good discussion, actually. Like escalation. I used like that Batman clip. I guess we can't show it because then I'll get copyrighted for that. But like where he says at the end, he has like a conversation about escalation. So that's the same thing. Like they'll say, oh, the founding fathers didn't expect for people to have assault rifles, but they also didn't expect for the government to have tanks and jets and enemies and foreign enemies to have nuclear bombs and all this kind of stuff. So it's an equalizing factor. They didn't expect you to have the access to this advanced weaponry, but they also didn't expect everyone else in the world to have that. So as theirs goes up, yours can't stay the same. Just use muskets or just use so there is some legitimacy to that. You can't just use the argument one way to say oh, they didn't expect you to have these things, so therefore we'll change the interpretation of it. Because then let's just say hypothetically, okay, your government goes tyrannical and you have to defend yourself or whatever. Your government's incompetent, so they get overtaken by China or something, and now you have to defend yourself against a foreign enemy, even whatever the case might be. Chat GPT, I haven't heard much about that actually lately. Then you need something a little better than just a dinky whatever old school weapon or some limited thing like a shotgun, whatever. Like you need something more to equalize that. So I think that's a fair escalation argument that you kind of have to look at it both ways. Because yeah, people have said that so many times, like, oh, you should have they were expecting people to only have muskets, but they were also dealing with a government that only had muskets, so it's hard to kind of interpret it for them, what they would have meant or how they would have applied it now. I think you should read Section 3 of 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Okay. This is good. Let's react to the Constitution. Section 3 Amendment, or what is it? Amendment 14. Is this the one that's like disqualify, trying to disqualify the guy? No person shall be a senator, representative of Congress, or elector, vice president, hold any under the United States previously. Okay, it's too long to even fit in there. But no, what was the other thing I was saying? Like, whatever, that escalation argument, and then I can't remember. No person shall be, okay, we get it. What is the exact wording of it? To support the Constitution, have engaged. Okay, now this is the stupid point that they keep using this buzzword, insurrection. He went to the impeachment in a legal setting where they impeached him on the charge of insurrection, right? And he was acquitted in like 5 days or something. So based on that, even in a legal setting, it wasn't proven to be insurrection. So I mean, you have to defer to that. And this is where the conspiracy theory terminology goes one way, but not the other. Like if you assert something that isn't legally proven, that's a conspiracy theory, or at least it's a theory. Like if that had been a successful impeachment, then you could say that. But like, so that isn't what was proven to have happened. So therefore, that's just not even pertinent. And if it had been, then he would have been impeached anyway. So they were using that buzzword from the very beginning, but like, Peter Doocy, everybody always shits over Fox News. I called that like super early on though. Like there was a time when like I would shit on Fox News. Like this is like early 2010s or even before that. And so I'm saying, oh, Fox News is biased or whatever, like on the debate format and stuff. And then I would almost treat the other networks like, oh, they're actually unbiased. But at some point along the way, they started to lean pretty hard the other way too. Or like there's this good sort of hive mind analysis that like you can say, CNN, NBC, ABC, all these networks are lean one way. So it seems like that's the norm. Like, oh, they're not biased. They're just all biased together. So it creates this sort of false normalcy. And then, oh, Fox News leans the other way. So why can't you see that they're all biased for people? Instead, they'll see, oh, Fox is biased and everybody else isn't. Why can't it just be that they all are, but they just lean in different directions? So you should still be weary of that. I don't know why that's such a surprise to people. January 6th was, well, I mean, again, if you want to use a legal setting, it doesn't say you have to be found guilty. Well, but see, it depends how you're determining it then. Like anybody can just assert it is or isn't that, but like it would have had to have been proven in a legal setting to actually be that event, right? Using that buzzword. But it would be, yeah, let's see, this must have peaked around then. But just because the media calls it that, just because you call it that, just because people call it that, doesn't mean that it is that. Like in what legal setting has it proven to actually be that even occurred, right? That exact term or that exact word. Yeah, all these ways they try to disqualify the guy. Like, I don't like him either, but that doesn't mean that, people shouldn't vote for him then. But if they do, then you can't do anything about it. Alaska. Wait, this is, oh no, I want to see it like from last year. Past day, past 5 years. So it must have peaked around there. This is, yeah, like you would have to prove in a legal setting that happened that way. So then it would be very convincing to do that. But again, I would never be concerned even about that. If, let's say I'm even the biggest hater of his ever, I'd be like, I wouldn't care if he's disqualified from running or not, because I'd be like, oh, he's such a bad guy and he's such a clown that nobody should vote for him anyway. So you shouldn't need to disqualify your opponent in that context. You should only need to beat them overall. Or, whatever the expression, like, don't stop your opponents when don't interrupt your opponent when they're whatever, embarrassing yourself or defeating themselves. And so the best argument against him shouldn't be to censor him from Twitter or to, stop him from running. It should be to let him say whatever he wants or let him run as much as he wants, and he'll beat himself with his own clown behavior, right? That should be the standard. And if people don't agree and he ends up winning, then there's obviously something more to it. But why was it doing it here? Yeah, this should have been January 6th, obviously, and then it kind of died out. But shouldn't that have been like the impeachment hearing and stuff too? I guess that was probably part of it. When the guy says Philadelphia and everybody's laughing and all that kind of stuff. But that guy actually did a pretty good job, and he won in a pretty definition of the word. I mean, you don't need to have a trial to. Well, but see, it's when you're making a legal judgment to say. When you're legally saying somebody can't run for an office based on that, you can't just say that, oh, you interpret that that's what happened, and so that's the meaning of the word, and so therefore you can do that. You would need to prove it in a legal basis. Was anybody actually convicted of it besides him? Like insurrection, charge, like what were people charged with? I don't even know. January 6th. So at least if somebody involved in the event was charged, arrested on a series of charges, assaulting a member of the media, destroying their equipment, right? So somebody would have had to at least been charged with it to even say it happened from a legal perspective. Charges related to assaulting a member of the media, destroying their equipment, have been charged with entering or remaining in restricted grounds, destruction of government property, theft. I'm still not seeing the word though. See, it's a very specific charge that we're dealing with here. Hundreds of convictions, but major mystery is still unsolved 3 years after the riot. There was a whole drama about the video, releasing the video, numbers of people involved, and just the attempts to get at him show you a clear bias regardless. Like, even if he's guilty of stuff, they don't go after everybody else this way. So this is why people start to become a little skeptical. Like, George Bush is an unconvicted war criminal for Iraq, but nobody gives a shit. He didn't even go to trial for it. They didn't impeach him for that. So there is a clear double standard. Like, he's a Republican too, but like sometimes they just don't give a shit, and sometimes they won't get off the guy's ass. So it's not even a question of what somebody did or didn't do. It's about how, badly they want to see somebody go down. And they keep changing the goalpost, right? Like they start his presidency starts with an impeachment and it ends with an impeachment. And both were unsuccessful, but it's like, it's just dumb because they're obviously out to get him regardless of whether that's accurate or not. So there is some sort of other bias. So some people will look at that and see, that's doing him the biggest favor. Like, just ignore him. He's a clown. Nobody cares. But instead, they keep buffering up by saying, like, whenever the establishment, corporate media, whatever you want to call it, doesn't like somebody that much, people will like them for that reason alone because they're being told not to like them. So it's like basic psychology, reverse psychology. How would you imagine a trial would go to prove the definition of a word? Well, like, see, even that trial, what was that proceeding? Like, let me see. January 6th impeachment. If this had been successful, for example, that would have been a great let's do adopt article of impeachment based on incitement of insurrection. And then let's see what the result was. Right? And so he was declared innocent. Therefore, you have to defer to this event, right? Like what other legal setting has been used here? Let's see. Guilty. So 48 guilty, 43 not guilty. And you could say, oh, well, they're biased because they're Republicans. Like, I get it, but that's how it works. So, I mean, you would kind of have to do this, because I'm sure people would say if he had been guilty here, then people wouldn't question it. They'd be like, oh yeah, fuck the guy, get rid of him. Like, so they would have respected it then, but they don't respect it now. And so you can criticize the bias and the nature of the process. Obviously, Democrats are voting guilty just because they're Democrats. Republicans are voting not guilty just because they're Republicans. But still, that was so he's not guilty of insurrection based on that legal setting, legal event. So I don't know what else to say. Like, I can't, you can't assert it otherwise, I don't think. Public opinion poll, support, oppose. It's like the boy who cried wolf type of thing, where they keep doing it. Acquits him again. Yeah, that is an interesting topic. Why the amendment doesn't say anything about inciting? You only have to participate. Okay, so then that's expanding it a little bit, but I mean, I guess you would. That's why I was looking even for other charges. Like, was January 6th proven to be an insurrection, period? So somebody would have had to have been charged of it. Was anybody charged with it? Because I only saw other charges. They're calling it that, but look who's calling it that. Just because CNN calls it that or Washington Post calls it that, who is actually, it's a crime, right? Like, you would be charged with that. So nobody has actually been, they keep calling it that, but it was never, no charges were actually shown, right? All those other people were charged with damaging media property and things like that, but I don't think anybody is actually charged with it. So it's hard to even say that. Could be charged, right? They said it, but then did it actually happen? That's the thing. Participate in the insurrection. It's just been turned into sort of a buzzword, but yeah, it's sort of like grasping at straws. I don't really see a strong thing. The strongest argument you would have had is if that impeachment had been successful, then it's easy to say, okay, fine, right? Like that goes without saying. But when that fails, it really hurts to make the case. Yeah, let's see what all is being said about the guy since we brought this up. Just like news articles. The news has been like his biggest fucking ally. It is like the ultimate Streisand effect, reverse psychology. If they just treated him like anybody else and just ignore him or whatever, it would have been fine. But they always have such a hard on for the guy. Like, just who cares about him? But they always want to do this. I guarantee you, like 74, he got more votes the second time than he did the first time. 74 million versus whatever the first time. I don't even remember. It's like, if you just treated a guy like a normal president, that wouldn't happen. You got the defamation case. Holy shit, dude. Trump, it's just hilarious. So many people will do it for that reason alone, right? He'll keep getting more votes because of how much everybody seems to not like him in these powerful positions, at the very least. Leading with 20 delegates, so I mean, obviously he'll be the nominee. That goes without saying. Results expected. I mean, why can't you just get somebody else? Or you know what, it was the perfect time to do what I said? It was the perfect time to vote for an independent like Joe Jorgensen, because it's like so many people don't like Trump. So, okay, don't vote for him, but then don't vote for the other side either, the other major party. Vote for Joe Jorgensen or vote for somebody, some independent. So if 81 million people did that instead, it's the perfect thing, because they don't have any strong conviction in anybody, obviously, but they just don't like the one guy on the other side. So it would solve both problems. You would get somebody new in office, so you also wouldn't get Trump in office, but you would have not gotten the clown who's currently in office. Why does it say? What is it? But it's a legal term too, in addition to being a buzzword. Let's say she looked. Legal definition. Let's see how it defines it here. Any act of rebellion against the United States government constitutes federal crime, which, again, was that federal crime charged on anybody? Maybe I missed where it said that, but I'm not seeing any reference to it. So if all they're doing is they're charging people for damaging people's property, I would say a charge on at least one person there would have to be done. Peaceful protests are legal, protected. Apply when you destroy government property or assault federal officers. Okay, so that did happen. Right, so under that point, it should apply, but I don't know why it wasn't charged then properly. Insurrection of charges are rarely filed because they recognize the First Amendment to right to free speech. So again, that's up to them. They have to charge it still. So it didn't actually happen even then. So that's their fault. Yeah, the DOJ should have charged it as insurrection on some of those people, right, who were there. For example, when people stormed the building, okay, it's saying that, but like, how can you? I love how it's even asserting that. For example, recall the events. Yeah, recall them when 0 charges of such charge were made. So it's really the DOJ's fault then. They broke windows, destroyed government property, and were aggressive against federal law enforcement officers. Other potential charges tied to the storming of the Capitol include trespassing, disorderly conduct, obstructing law enforcement. Whoever incites, has puts on, assists, engaged in rebellion, insurrection against the authority of the United States, being convicted under the law. It just becomes so shaky because you can't. It's hard to even prove that's what did happen based on that, and then it's hard to prove every individual's involvement in it. It's like, it's just really a reach. That's why you have to defer to a legal setting rather than, you know, individual speculation or media analysis or whatever. Like, it has to be proven in some legal setting still. Insurrection refers to acts of violence, but it's not the only charge that could apply. Conspiracy, for example, attempt to overthrow the government. People can be charged with sedition, conspiracy, even if they never plan to carry out violence. What is considered not explicitly defined even by federal law. Courts and legal scholars generally interpret it as violent uprising and organized resistance against the government or its regulations. Often involves acts intended to overthrow, disrupt, or challenge the authority of the United States, impede the enforcement of federal laws. Rebellion. What are some examples? Here we go, dude. January 6th. I'm sure there's other examples throughout history. Why does he need to be found guilty of it? I mean, that would certainly help the case. Like, if you would think that should be that if that's the basis on which someone's being disqualified for running, they should probably be found guilty of it. And the way that he could have been was in that impeachment trial. So that seems like the perfectly logical step to take. Right, like, just look at it hypothetically. If he had been found guilty there, then nobody would object to doing that, you know, disqualifying him on that basis. The most poignant way to illustrate the idea is January 6th. Regardless of what charge... See, it's even fucking... What is this website? Isn't this supposed to be like an objective website? Why is it saying it like that? Regardless of the charges, let's call it that anyway. Look at that shit, dude. It's even trying to do mental gymnastics. No, tell me the charges that were done, and if one of them's insurrection, then it's a fucking insurrection. If not, then what do you want me to say? I'm not the DOJ. I didn't do the charges. For vigilante groups such as the Proud Boys, for whom there has been sufficient evidence of deliberate and coordinated efforts to descend on Washington, invade the Capitol building, physically disrupt the vote, and potentially inflict harm upon members of Congress, it could be argued that you know what the irony of it is, too? What they were disrupting was the very hearing in which they were hearing about whether or not the election was valid or the flaws with the election. So the irony of it is the act of that supposed insurrection happening stopped them from doing that proceeding, which means that they're... And then as soon as they came back into session after that, everybody sort of just folded and sat down and stopped making their arguments. So it actually hurt, to whatever extent you want to look at it, it hurt whatever arguments they were making in there that could have potentially had some sort of effect on the election in favor of Trump. So it didn't even really help by that basis alone, right? What was happening that day would have only benefited you potentially or not. Like, it in the end, it didn't do anything anyway, but you know, that proceeding was happening at that time. For anyone providing funding, supporting for others who simply attended protest, breach of the Capitol building. What are the related federal laws? And I mean, the thing is, too, that's weird about the interpretation is he's still the president at that time, and he's still in charge of the military and the, you know, and the police and stuff like that. And so what normally happens in other countries in this situation, if somebody wants to hold on to offices, they would use the insurrection as a pretense, you know, that you were calling it, as a pretense to, you know, create martial law, and then use that to extend their thing and say, oh, in the name of security and safety, and because of this thing that happened, we have to tighten everything. We'll delay the election for 6 months. That would be the exact playbook that you would use, right, to actually extend your term there and say, oh, we can't do it under these conditions. We can't do the election because there's all this crazy stuff happening. Why does a case need to be made? Can't we look at the facts and see if there was one? And if there was one, I mean, you can do that as an individual, but I mean, I think when it's such a major legal decision that's being made, there should be a legal judgment. I think that's fair to say. What are the penalties, conviction? I'm surprised they didn't actually have even one conviction of that, though. What are the defenses? Because then you have to go even deeper and prove two separate things. Like, you have to prove, first of all, that it happened, that a conviction was made for it happening to anyone, like anyone being convicted for it, and then you have to prove his involvement for it. So I know that people can speculate and draw their own conclusions. That's fine, but like how I'm drawing my own conclusion on the Iraq War, like that wasn't proven. So that's a conspiracy theory that, oh, he committed war crimes, but technically, if you look at it, he did, George Bush, but nobody's brought him to trial, so you have to accept that until somebody does, unless you want to do it yourself, become a lawyer. But like, even if I believe that and I could make a good case for it, nobody's actually done it. So, sometimes you just have to accept that. I always, good old law and order argument, like you just have to have some sort of legal basis, despite how strongly you might feel about something. I just wouldn't feel like it's that necessary to even do. The Section 3 of the 14th require a legal judgment to be made. It was sort of vague with that, but apparently people must agree too, because it hasn't been done. Like, it's not going to happen where he gets disqualified, but let me see it again. Shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion or given aid to your comfort. It doesn't say that, but that's usually what things written in a legal text mean, that it would have to be legally proven. It doesn't say, oh, if CNN decides it, or if I decide it, or if some random person decides it, therefore we get to just assert that that's what it is. And so now we just do it. Like, it's too serious of a disqualification to do that. So I would say, yes, it should be proven legally that either at least somebody did it, somebody else did it, and he participated, or vice versa. You know what this reminds me of, actually, reading the Constitution, is there was this like expression or moment that I had when I was younger, like where I like read the Bible, and I wasn't religious at all, and I wasn't a Christian, and I didn't grow up like that at all. So I just read it on my own, and then people would kind of question, like, why did you do that? What kind of point is it to? But it's like, if you're going to dismiss something, right, you should consider it first. Like, so I'm not going to just say, oh, I don't believe in it, until I first read it thoroughly and consider it. So that's like a good objectivity example. And then the other point of that is, like, the irony is that you might have read it, and therefore you don't believe it, and people who do believe it haven't read it. And so it's like, you know more about what they believe in than they do, and you're even more credible that way. So it's kind of a good standard to use sometimes in a lot of things. Yeah, I guarantee. I have read the entire Constitution before, but I don't remember fuck all, every detail from it. But I guarantee you, a lot of people probably haven't even read it. Obviously there's some parts that everybody just knows by. What is interesting is sort of like their hierarchy. This is like an old school tier list to see like what they thought was most important to mention first, right? The order in which they put the amendments and everything. Or it could just be like, oh, they just didn't think of that yet, so then they just put it in when they did think of it. But that's always a bad sign. The more amendments there are, you could just keep doing that on and on forever and end up defeating the whole purpose of it in the end. Let's see, what else is trending here? But yeah, this was just sort of like a random category that I felt like doing. Let's see. Yeah, that's hilarious, dude. I didn't know. They stole my term. When did this company come out? Of course, that has nothing to do with the meaning of the term, but good old Sigmund Freud over here. Little extension on his thing. I think you have to clear your history sometimes, because otherwise he keeps giving you things related to what you just saw. New York Times connection hints. What is that? Elden Ring DLC. I've never even played Elden Ring. Hot air balloon crash. Las Vegas Raiders. Love Island. Border Patrol Texas. Or yeah, there's a good rebuttal for this whole situation with respect to. Maybe I should be able to show that one. I don't know. I just don't like to show anything. But Obama, there was some old clip that you could show where Obama was saying, if you come across the border, we will send you back. And so it's like, what's happened under Biden doesn't resemble the even what Obama did. So like, he was even stricter on border control than we are now. So don't use Trump as the example. Use him. Like, nobody, even Bill Clinton, like nobody in the past really did what we've done now, which is just completely do nothing and just say, oh, you can just come across with no proper legal process, which no country in the world does that. Because, you know, try to step across the border into China, you'll get fucking shot. Like, nobody's gonna let you do that. I can't remember what it was, or they probably removed it with children. There was something like that. Or if you send children, yeah, look at this shit. I'll just show the one part, or whatever. You get the point. Don't send your children. So he says, like, if you this aged perfectly. This was 4 years ago too. It's even better. Like, if you send children across the border, we'll send them back. If you whatever, the whole concept being that he's stricter on border control even than, you know, what we have now. So use that as the standard. Yeah, there's a lot of buzzwords. He did make some good points. Like, you could interpret it that way, but if you're going to do it that way, it's very hard, because it comes down to one person believes, you know, you're just interpreting the meaning of the word or the event that happened. One person believes it is one person believes it isn't one. So, like, you can't really win that, so you have to defer to some sort of legal judgment. And the one that I would use if I'm going to do that is the January 6th whatever impeachment, which would say he was acquitted. Try to do a just chatting stream without discussing religion or politics. Speedrun failure. I've already touched on both with the Bible reference there too, but this is what people do, I guess. The second impeachment, okay. Yeah, I mean, again, this would have been your best case, and it shouldn't have been that hard to do then, right? Like, why shouldn't you be able to win this? But then he threw it back in their face very well by showing all these video clips of, like, you know, oh, he used language to incite violence, and then they show, like, whatever, I can't remember, but they show, like, we're gonna get up in them and this and that, Maxine Waters or somebody. And so what's ironic about that is maybe you're right in both cases. Like, maybe Kamala Harris says positive things about the riots happening across the country after George Floyd and stuff. So, like, you could say they're both guilty of insurrection. That doesn't mean he's innocent, but then you would have, you know, they want to cover their own ass and say, oh, no, we, you know, it's hard to make that case. So that was a pretty brilliant thing that they did. You just show, like, okay, if this sort of language can constitute it, then that sort of language has been used a lot by a lot of people on both sides. Invoking 25th Amendment, Raskin Bill. But yeah, that's one thing I don't like about people, is that they, you know, if something like this had been successful, they wouldn't question it, right? People who are on this, whatever, Orange Man bad, whatever. But, like, again, I don't like the guy either. But just if you were to have it go the other way, they wouldn't question it. But now they'll question it. They'll say, oh, well, it's rigged, or, oh, because they're Republicans. So if it was guilty, you wouldn't say, oh, they voted for him just because they're Democrats. Like, it wouldn't have taken that many more, you know, to do it. So you'll see the bias one way but not the other, similar to the whole Fox News thing. Just like you'll see that Fox News is biased, but you won't see that the CNN and stuff is biased in just a different direction. Even Wikipedia is biased at times. People have shown so many examples. Like, everybody can be biased. I don't see why it's so surprising. But, like, if an individual can be biased, why can't a company owned by an individual consisting of, you know, just people with flaws and preferences and opinions? You're supposed to keep that out of it, but the president of Taiwan, the whole drama in the NBA with Taiwan was funny, like how you weren't supposed to say it, or somebody got in trouble. Daryl Morey says something, and then LeBron kind of takes the side of China. That makes him look like a bit of a clown. Lit China, they were calling him. Teachers would always ridicule Wikipedia in school, like, oh, don't get your information from Wikipedia. But in the end, it turned out to be actually a pretty valuable resource of information. Sure, people can edit it and troll and stuff like that, but it's actually not too bad. What else here? We touched on a lot of different topics. So yeah, this was just like a one-off random thing that I felt like doing. But who knows what I'll do next week? Even I don't know. Let me think if there's, like, maybe one other thing I could do. Well, there was something I said I was going to do and I forgot. Like, look at some sort of site, like guess the elo, or guess the rank or something. It was some game like that. Oh yeah, Ranked, I think. Not that I'd be an expert on most of these games, but you would think chess I should know. Right, guess the elo for this match. And you get to see the whole thing too, so it's... You know what's hard about that, though, is the fact that you feel kind of like, you know, you could have stretches where, like, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was that move? Like, this has got to be real. I would say that shit. Look at that move, dude. Look at that move. Yeah, yeah. Like, that's too obvious. Who the fuck would do that? He just misclicked. He's playing on his phone. Okay, this looks pretty standard. They have some awareness and knowledge of openings. So this has got to be. This is like literally me. This is my game here, so it must be at least 11 to 1500. Also, like, elo in what context? Is this FIDE elo? Is this chess elo that's inflated? Is it chess.com, which is insane? Okay, that was kind of a dumb sequence of moves there a little bit. So I'll say it's somewhere in the middle. It actually doesn't seem that bad, though. I guess I could watch the whole rest of the thing. Is it really 684, though? Because, like, I've played 684s, dude. That looked pretty clean. I guess I'm judging it too much just by the opening. You gotta watch the whole thing. Laborious as it might be, you just gotta judge like whether they're just blundering pieces or not outright, or whether they're just moving stuff back and forth. This looks actually kind of advanced, but that's where looks can be deceptive, where it's just not. Oh, this is fucking crazy. What the hell? Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Yeah, this is kind of fun to do, but it's very hard to do sometimes. Let's see what other games are on there. League of Legends, I have no idea because I don't really play it. Valorant, I mean, you could just try to guess from a surface level, like how impressive what they're doing actually is. Yeah, I wonder if any of my gameplay has appeared on here. It's possible. Somebody would take a clip of my stream, or like, how do you really... How do they really determine whether it's... Because somebody could just be trolling, like it's really at a high level, but just to throw off ranked, I'll just play badly instead. Ranked unlimited. We're gonna get some sort of fucking virus here. Rocket League guess the rank. Daily guessing players' ranks. This is kind of a fun one though. Yeah, chess is the only one of interest to me because I at least play chess enough to... Okay, let's do it once more. So here, chess match 3. Or wait. How do we go to like a next one then? View result. Give me more. It keeps doing the same one over and over. What? It's just stuck. What, you can only play like once a day? Join the Discord. Yeah, this is at least a little more fun. You're like playing like a little mini game. There's a whole bunch of stuff like this you could do. Do Scribble.io or do... But even that has like a category on Twitch. So just chatting is so hard to determine sometimes with respect to like... You know, there was a big drama with like Botez. Botez would do chess and just chatting because technically it sort of is like you're just talking about random subjects and you happen to be playing chess in the background instead of vice versa. She is a sub 2000 FIDE player after all. So it's not like chess is the #1 thing on her mind. But, you know, she could be doing DJ stuff and dancing in the background of Magnus's stream. Like, is it just chatting or is it chat? So it can fit into so many different categories what you're doing. So, like, you could put that you're playing Scribble.io or you could put that you're... I don't know, doing something else, or you could just put just chatting for almost anything. Guess the elo. Of what? This is a rated... What is a rated Blitz game, dude? This is blindfold chess, dude. This isn't fair. YouTube video. Alright, let me see if there's one more topic I can ramble on about, but we went from like fucking talking about my computers, laptop, PC gamer, elitist, Halo... You know, impeachment, Donald Trump, in before the inevitable Donald Trump thing. I guess I started probably talking about it, but that sort of thing is inevitable to avoid. Or you know what I have? I have some video. This will be a good way to end off, actually. The, my friend's channel here. Yeah, let's look at some of his recent uploads, one of which is my Botez, another one of my Botez reaction things. But look at how much he just randomly came back to service here. It had been like, what, 5 months to 3 days ago. A lot of these are like my clips and stuff that I don't want to upload to my own channel. So like he just did a whole bunch of movie clip uploads. When your girlfriend asks if she's getting fat. And then I'm not even going to show these necessarily, but... Or this one you should be able to show. How he's made more from TikToks and whatever stupid... persona he's put on instead of actually... Yeah, see, I don't really want to show a clip from a movie. This is just Nicolas Cage ranting when Nolan, this is him saying damn good television. Christian Bale from The Batman Begins. I don't know what that one is. This one actually I think I gave him the idea for a while ago. It was like when he says I won't even say the line, but he just has that crazy passenger in the back talking about some very grotesque stuff. And it's not like Robert De Niro says anything, but that's basically the old expression, sir, this is a McDonald's or whatever. This one I said the idea for too, which was like, amusing but pointless when Ra's al Ghul says that. And that, this one also, and I use this as one of my chess titles, like a benevolent game would not ask such things of players. No man has blundered more in meritocracy's name than I. So he says, a benevolent God would not ask such things of men. I don't know what that is. This one's kind of funny. It's like, only now at the end do you understand from Return of the Jedi. The real crime would not be to finish what I started. I kind of watched all these the other day, but this is a couple days ago. Nicolas Cage, this is pretty good, where he says like, there you are. He had like announces his presence and points at her. This is I could react to my own clip, reacting to them. The state of content, you would think, oh wow, that's crazy, who would ever do that, or who would want to watch it? But this is the kind of shit that people apparently do, which I guess you can be the change you wish to see in the world. You don't have to actually do it, but this video is kind of underrated a little bit. A whole bunch of jokes to do with movies. If you don't like me when I'm doing fart jokes, you don't deserve me when I'm doing existential drama. I made that little quip about how he went from doing all these movies that I would make fun of and shit on, like Ace Ventura, literally, I guess, Ace Ventura, to doing the movie I consider the best of all time, which is The Truman Show, or even like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and all these kind of things, The Majestic. So I at least got to give him credit for doing that, but let me actually just look through all of them. I don't always make movies, but when they do, they're the top 3 grossing of all time. Like, obviously, Avatar, Titanic, kind of true. And then he takes long breaks. I heard you like blue, so I put blue people underwater so you could see blue while they're fighting other blue people. And we made the villains blue, too, like Quaritch. So, yeah, blue overload. What was this one? Oh, I was making fun of the fact that like he said he does the Nolan title drop. He's a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight. So only Christopher Nolan can get away with that kind of hokey shit where you say the name of the title in the movie, but he says it at the end, and I rolled my eyes at that, and that's been like a running joke how much I made fun of that scene, like where towards the end of the movie, he's like to his father. He recites the whole thing, the way of water connects all things, and that was a really cringe kind of scene. Laying it on a little bit thick. This was pretty long running thing about her perfectly symmetrical face. Like, she's actually the robot. Her face is more perfectly symmetrical than even a robot's. Allison Williams. And then, what else? This is always good if you're reacting to your own content. Audience, I can't wait to find out why she just starts dancing, and then they don't actually give you a reason for it. There really isn't. Like, there could have at least been like a little subtle thing, like earlier in the movie she's listening to a particular song, right, like with the girl when she's doing a dance, and so then the song's playing on like the intercom or whatever in this building as she's going on her killing spree, and so it reminds her of that memory, and it's like a trigger that sets off the dance. But it's not, because for the audience they're playing some other different song completely. So why is she doing that? Just she's malfunctioning or something? If you don't like me when I'm doing fart jokes, you don't deserve me when I'm doing existential drama. That's actually a pretty good line there. And I avoided. See, I consider The Truman Show the best movie ever, but I avoided watching it for so long because Jim Carrey was in it, because I thought, oh, it would be some stupid comedy. And yeah, there's some high energy comedic sort of moments in there, but it's not really. This shows you how lazy this guy is, though. This is the kind of shit he would do normally, like random stuff like this. He's going over that cliff. This is pretty good. Because he kept saying Tom Brady is gonna fall off a cliff over and over. That's it. This is like this whole guy's whole existence. This is the kind of videos that he does, just like lowest common denominator, shitpost, random reference stuff that takes no effort. And then he's even too lazy to even do that. But like, and then the rest of it is my stuff that I, again, don't want to upload to my channel, so then I just let him have free reign over it. People should have shat all over this one because I guess I was wrong. That's the world champion I'm talking about. But how can you be so right and wrong at the same time? Where he did choke, but he still won. Imagine that. Avatar 2 review, which I think this will age actually pretty well, because I criticized mainly the fact that they recycle everything. The humans are the enemies in the first movie, and so they recycle that. They're the enemies again. They bring back Quaritch, so the same villain even again. You know, a lot of it's just the same conflict, the same general pacing, everything's the same. The setting is basically just different. They're in the water, and that's them sort of holding back because they know they're going to make 3 more movies. So they had probably better ideas and better conflicts. They're going to introduce a fire clan or something in the next one. So they said, fuck it. Let's just, yeah, is Allison Williams' face more perfectly symmetrical than a robot's? That's a real reason to watch that. But no, yeah, they recycle too much of the same thing, and it's not really inventive enough. The screenplay definitely is disappointing. The Red John thing, that's kind of triggering. I'm surprised some of these get so many views. Like, a lot of these are just me. But oh no, this is maybe what I was remembering. I don't even remember what some of the stuff is, but look how much there is. I could easily, those who stand for nothing are offended by everything. It's a pretty good quote. In these sensitive times we live in, it's like the best way to deal with something is to rebut it, not to censor it. Like, even if what they're saying is wrong, it could be so wrong and you just dismiss it and ignore it. That's your choice, your prerogative. Or you could just like make a case that's better, and so social Darwinism will decide. So if what they're saying is bad versus what I'm saying, then, or whatever, if what someone's saying is wrong and what you're saying is right, then the majority of people should agree with you, even if some people still won't. Or even beyond that, you could look at it from a perspective of this is at least a really out there idea. It's just like the Eyes Wide Shut music with XQC doing something in GTA RP. I think this might have actually been me doing it, this clip, but I don't think there's commentary on there. I can't remember. This was kind of, yeah, a lot of this might even be some of my clips. Because at this point, I wasn't even like uploading anything or whatever. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my YouTube. In fact, I almost didn't want to do anything. Because I just never used to do that because I stream for such long periods of time. Like, if you're streaming 7 hours a day, you know, how the fuck are you going to upload 7 hours worth of stuff a day? This was kind of funny. You go through the whole replay and then nothing actually happens. It doesn't actually show where he scores. But no, either you're offended or like, you know, because think about, like, what does it really mean to be offended? Like, if what someone's saying is accurate, then it's just a statement of truth. So at worst, it's redundant. You already know that, and so, oh, it's just not nice to say it, but it's true. If what they're saying is false, then you can just ignore it. Like, okay, like you're saying you're 100 feet tall or you're 1 foot tall, but he's actually 5 feet tall. So you just dismiss it. Like, okay, what you're saying just isn't true. So why would I care? Why would I give it any mind? One of my expressions too, like, something deserves the amount of thought that was put into it. So you didn't put any thought into saying that, so I'm not going to give it any thought in return. And then, so if it's true, it's just redundant at worst. If it's false, it's negligible. And if it's somewhere in between, like just an opinion, then it's just, you can let social Darwinism decide. So in no scenario in that framing would you need to censor it. You could just let people decide for themselves. So I don't get what the thing is. Why people have to be so sensitive, or I don't know. It's just funny, the kind of random shit that, but this is very in keeping with modern content of how people do things. This is me. Yeah, I have so much shit to do with chess actually these days. This one's pretty good. Anna Kremling, when she when she realizes how much more money she makes than Grandmasters, and she's just laughing the whole time. $2,000 versus GM. I don't know how active her mom actually is now, though. Evil is the sort of false duality premise that we're looking at. This is Trump-related thing. Fuck. It's just such a hot topic for people, but I'm kind of... It doesn't really do it for me because it just feels sort of forced. Like, if you don't like that, there's plenty of bad presidents. Like, what's the big deal? Right? They're all clowns. None of these people are good. So that's what I don't like, is sort of the false framing that, oh, everybody was an angel and everything was perfect and normalcy, and then the big bad Trump came along. It's like, maybe they were always like that and you just now started paying attention. So that doesn't mean he isn't like that, but you know, it doesn't have to be one or the other. If it's immoral, let social Darwinism decide. And if it's not true, let common sense decide. This is pretty good. Oligarchy is good. Bezos. We have to ban speech for the sake of our freedom. Yeah, like that's totally unnecessary what they did with the Twitter thing. Corporate entities should be, or you know what I said, even like a legal judgment. So if you're gonna say it like on, maybe playing devil's advocate a bit, like if it was because he incited this or that, you have to wait for the legal proceeding to succeed, right? The impeachment, and then if it succeeds, the January 6th thing, then you can do it because you can say, okay, he committed a crime, therefore we'll do it. But what's funny about that is there are even criminals. There's no law that says if you're a criminal and you're in jail, you can't use Twitter. If you somehow, your friend brings you a phone and a whatever conjugal visit, or I don't fucking know. There's no law, or there's no thing that says that. Or you could have been a criminal before and you get out and now you start using Twitter. Like it's such a hard standard to justify. So it starts to become a little bit silly. Okay, that's good enough for me. See you tomorrow.